So let's get started. My name is Andrei. I'm a product manager at Opendock. I oversee the carrier experience with the platform here. And also in the call here, we have our colleague Aaron, which is director of engineering at Opendock. And he's going to be open here to answer any questions that you may have during this session. Today, we're going to talk about the two ways that we can do appointment validation with Opendock. And let me get started. So just some housekeeping rules here. This session is being recorded. You can use the chat for questions here, and the resources will follow this session. What we'll cover today, the problem with the manual checks, what automated validation does, the two ways that we offer today using the Opendock to do appointment validations. And I'm going also to show a live demo that you can see in how this works with the file-based option too. So what is the problem with the manual validation, right? So we know that an invalid appointment can cost someone twice here. Once when it's booked and once when it's caught. The warehouse catches it manually after the truck is already planned around it. And if you think about a coordinator's day, someone is checking a spreadsheet by hand for every appointment. And if we think about the volume, this can get really expensive because we know that this person doesn't have the time to do it carefully. We are talking about manual audit. We are talking about potentially a detention, disputes, dock capacity, and most of the times they don't find out until they are. If we think about the driver, they don't find out until the driver is on the way, or even worse, when they get to the gate and then they figure out that the appointment is not ready for them there. And not to mention, like, if we think that also when we get an appointment scheduled wrong, it prevents the correct appointment to be booked because someone is blocking a slot that someone else could use. So the issue is not the spreadsheet. The issue is the timing in essence. And if we and talking about how this works, what are the alternatives that we have for this, right? So when you have a validation solution in place, the process goes like this. The carrier will submit the details either via scheduling portal, that's the one that we are gonna see in the live demo in a couple minutes, or either via API, the solution will work the same. And then Opendock will check against the data that is given to us, and only the valid appointments get through. So there's two options here. There's a match, and the appointment get created and confirmed and lands on the doc schedule, or there isn't a match. And this is where the agent gets told what happened and why the appointment didn't get through. So this is really important here, because if we are implementing an appointment solution validation, it may sound that it's the no match is like not good, but in essence, like, that's better, because the agent that is doing the appointment gets right away in their desk what is wrong and why they were not able to book the appointment. Let me go ahead and show you what are the options here. In Opendock, we have two options here. We offer an API integration that you can connect directly to your system, and that's meant for customers that want to build their own solution and validate in real time. So think about it, like, the moment a PO gets created within your system, it is valid for validation instantly. But we also have an alternative for the customers that either don't have an engineering team available, for that moment, or they are just starting to think about an appointment validation solution. And this alternative is the file-based validation. So I'm gonna show you a little more in detail the file validation option in a couple seconds here. The alternative is meant for simple rules that you can send in a file and we can validate against. So what you can validate today? The main point is so how does it work? Like it has 4 steps and it doesn't require engineering work. What happens, or the first step is to map the export. We provide you with a template, and then you line up the columns from your spreadsheet to the what is expected in this solution here. And then we set up a shared email box. And then once you send this file to this mailbox, it gets ingested into our system and the validation goes live. This this solution, you can set it up the way you want. You can send a file daily, a file hourly, or once a shift. And it's important to mention that this file-based validation will work with the most recent file version. So if you, we do not append data in this case here. You send the file and the most recent one will be the one that is valid. The latest or the oldest one will get invalidated right away. And then talking about what you can validate today, the main point is the ref number. Ref number, as most of you know, it's a first class field within Opendock, which you can do whatever identifier you want to use within Opendock. It can be the shipment number, the PO, track unit, whatever the field that you want to validate. And you can even change within the Opendock the label that you're going to present to the carriers for this field here. But 99% of the time, it's the PO number. So, and the other thing is that appointment validations within Opendock happen on a warehouse basis, meaning that we know that each warehouse operate differently, and you may have different reasons and rules to do appointment validation per warehouse. The other things that go beyond ref number and warehouse are unit count, or even a delivery window. You can set a start date for a given PO or ref number. You can choose which of these you will enforce, or you can combine, for example, ref number and unit count for one warehouse, or ref number and start and end date for another warehouse. That's up to you. There's flexibility in this process here. And then, well, so, but if we are talking about the API integration, that is meant for customers that want a more real-time validation. So the customer can build their own solution and validate in real time. The moment a PO gets created on your system side, on your ERP or WMS, it is valid for validation instantly. You define your rules. There's also more expandable in different ways. Like, for example, you can validate load types, you can validate docs, whatever you want. It's up to you. And it's always current, as I mentioned. And how to choose? This is more a question of how you would like to do this validation. If your needs require real-time validation against your TMS or ERP, or a more complex set of rules, for example, if you have a shipment within a certain status before it's ready, or if you have a shipment number and this shipment number is going to work only after noon, for example, or only in certain days, Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, then our suggestion would be that you go with the API option. We recommend you building your own app validation engine. But if you can give us a spreadsheet with the rules that you want to validate, then we can set you up in a matter of days. So let's go directly to the demo here. Let me reshare my screen. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see the spreadsheet and the staging environment.
Okay. Perfect. That's good. So I created here a sample file with a couple ref numbers and warehouses and also start and end dates. You're going to see that we have different warehouses here. And the warehouse that I'm using for this demo here is this Billings warehouse. I'm also going to show you how this works within the warehouse in a couple minutes. But let's get started with this shipment here. It's a shipment for that works for the 17th here. So inside my scheduling portal, I'm going to select the warehouse Dragon Ice Fire Cold Storage and click book appointment. Let's say this is an inbound LTL. Okay, so here's the 17, 1 p.m. I'm going to copy the reference number here. All right, which is the customer? Let's say it's Coca-Cola. Okay, loading, nose, instruction. Back from freezing, domestic, pallet count. I haven't included any information regarding pallet count in the validation. And fresh. Confirm booking. Ref number was not found. Oh, okay, sorry. I forgot to do this. One process here. I have to export this. 1 second. This is how demos, what happens in demos. Let me download this here. CSV. Let me email this to my shared inbox.
The example you did just see, though, was when the validation decides that that appointment was not allowed. Right now, he hasn't yet loaded this sheet you see here into the system that's doing the validation. So it doesn't believe that that particular ref number is a valid one. And the error message it returned was one that was set up for it to return whenever the email or whenever the PO number is not valid. You can customize whatever that message is that gets returned back to the user so that the booking user can tell why it is their particular appointment wasn't able to be booked at the moment, and then they can make a change. It may be they need to book that PO number at a different date. It may be their PO number is just not valid at all, and you're asking them to go look it up and find the right one, and a variety of other things. But that was an example of what happens when you don't have the right PO number.
Exactly. 1 second, I'm processing the file here, or the system is processing the file. And all right, yeah, so the list is already live. You can see here in my email that I have sent this file to my shared inbox. And now if I try to book this again, it should work. Okay, so we have an appointment. If I go to Opendock here, you notice that we have the appointment created. So Let me do this process again, now trying to book an appointment against an invalid warehouse here. Dragon Ice and Fire, book an appointment. It's an outbound FTL, and let's use here 18, 9 a.m. You can see that like the 18 is valid, however, the warehouse is invalid here. So if I include the reference number here, customer Coca-Cola, loading news, domestic. Okay, so, and you can see that the reference number belongs to our warehouse. That's how it works. So basically, you send a file and we validate against the rules that were defined here. Going back here to the presentation. If you have any questions, so please feel free to ask.
Yeah, so we have one question right now. Is it possible to add appointment validation for driver check-in to the roadmap? A driver should not be able to complete check-in unless the reference number they enter matches a scheduled appointment. This would be one of the biggest unlocks for our team as we spend a significant amount of time coaching drivers and correcting check-ins when incorrect reference numbers are used. Enforcing this validation would improve check-in efficiency and reduce manual intervention from our dock teams. So, Vanessa, that would be associated with something we can add into check-in. It's very different than what this is. This is about appointment validation, about being able to decide whether we want to allow the person to even create the appointment or modify the appointment. That's what this kind of appointment validation is all about. What you're asking for is additional rules on the check-in process to make it where they must have an appointment that they can actually identify before they can complete the check-in process. And to be fair, we originally had it where it kind of did that. Problem was, it was very difficult for carriers to deal with, to always have the right information. So oftentimes they wouldn't find the right appointment because they typed in the wrong information, or we would have the unplanned arrivals, and we didn't have a way to gather information for the unplanned arrivals. So more often than not, it turned out people wanted to be able to move forwards with the process without holding people up, for them to try to find the exact correct information at check-in process. There may be some facilities that really do want to do it that way, and that is something that we can discuss. We'll talk to Drew about it and see about or actually Jan about it, to see what the possibilities are of having a configurable option where some people can say they must find a valid appointment or they can't even finish the process. Thanks, Vanessa, for letting us know that came from Josh.
Awesome. And Andre, do you mind talking about the process for customers to get a shared email?
Yes, for sure. So our IT team set up a shared inbox. For example, it could be customer-validation@opendock.com. And then we allow the emails that will be able to send the files to Opendock. And we have a middleware, an integration platform, which is called Kraken here. And Kraken receives the file and is the middleware that does all the validations here. What happens is that within Opendock here, if we go to the warehouse configuration and settings, the process is the same. Like if you were to set up your own middleware for validation, you would basically provide your URL here. And in this case here, we are setting up our middleware, our integration platform called Kraken here. And then basically all the emails get sent to this middleware, and the middleware process the files and make it available for validation.
We have another question here that Senha asked. He was asking if we have an opportunity to perhaps SmartGate, our AI-based a camera-based system that tracks vehicles as they enter a yard, to see if it could detect the carriers and trigger validation rules to process gate management. And yeah, that's absolutely a possibility of things. It's not strictly on our roadmap as listed that way, but it's part of that whole idea of being able to automate more and more as we go along. And customers that do have SmartGate and customers that have driver ID, the driver validation and other various features that we have, all of those can eventually be combined together to provide all sorts of different workflows and customizations.